I hope I'm making sense to you guys, and that's why I'm passionate about this, because it's not only about here, it's about trying to prevent harm from happening in other places as well, and letting Newburgh send a message, letting Flint, Michigan send a message, saying, you know, safe water is a right, and you can't do this just because we don't have as much voice or money as other places. Okay? Let's open it up for questions. Yes, sir, right in front.
Well, I wanted to correct you on the PFAS stuff. They known about it since 1990. They dumped 40 tons in since then. And the last contamination in that decade. Also, there's a radium contamination as well, 228, 226.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys could hear. He was actually laying down other things that have happened, radium, etc.
Since the 50s, they did the fluoride contamination for observational testing, just like they did in Kingston as well.
Okay. Other comments, questions, observations? Yes. Ma'am.
Hey, I'm Tamsin from Newburgh Clean Water Project. So I have a few questions for you, and I don't want to hog the floor, but I just want to have a fuller understanding of what you're saying. First question, how many cases of emerging contaminants have you actually won so far with substances like PFOS, PFOA, as opposed to lead?
Well, okay, so remember, this is a new contaminant, so it was only in May of 2016 that the EPA even set this new advisory level. It's actually still not a contaminant that has a legislated, regulated level. So different states are also doing different things. So we're just in the beginning of all of these cases. We started filing, I think, in late 2016, and all through 2017 into now we're doing more cases. So none of them have been resolved yet. That would be way too soon.
Go ahead, keep going.
So second question, Department of Defense. Why aren't we taking them to court? They're the ones who still haven't cleaned up the contamination. They're the ones who misstored the fire retardants. And they're the only ones that haven't come to the table yet. Everyone else has come to the table. Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Health.
What's the strategy behind not naming the DOD?
Well, there's a couple things going on here. First off, the manufacturers of the firefighting foam,
3M.
Okay.
they did not tell the federal government, they did not tell the Air Force that two things, how biodegradable it was, and that it was bioaccumulative in animals and eventually people. And guess what? 3M knew about it. They started doing their own research in the 50s. And they have been hiding this stuff for a very, very long time. So the government, the feds, they were using it as intended in the MSDS sheet. They did not realize that. And also from a strategic point of view, if you have to sue under the Federal Tort Claims Act, and it's almost impossible to get a recovery from them. So it's better to have them on our side.
Thank you.
And to help us with information because they were utilizing them. You know, they'll shut right down if you sue them. So we need a lot of information for them.
Just so you know, they've already shut down. They have not given us any information, even the information that's required by law.
Well,
And don't be surprised.
We'll come back. Circle back around.
Can I, just one more question?
Okay, one more.
This is our main concern here with Newburgh Clean Water Project, is how to preserve our water for generations to come. So if this has happened, I understand that everyone wants to seek remediation on the personal level. Is there anything that you guys are going to provide for the community as a whole to restore our watershed?
Well, that is not the job of necessarily this particular lawsuit, but that is going to be something that happens as a matter of course because of a lawsuit like this. Because they're going to have to address the contamination. They're going to have to always be focused on cleaning it up as it comes out and trying to avoid having other stuff come in. Now they know that Lake Washington is vulnerable in this way. And by the way, there's other chemicals that they've replaced the firefighting foam with that may be an issue too. So what the state of New York has done, which we practice all over the country, and I will say this for the state of New York, I was so impressed, just so incredibly impressed, because the Senate, they had hearings, they called people on the carpet from the Department of Health, and they said, you knew that these manufacturers were having this issue. Why didn't you look at these contaminants? Why didn't you look at all the contaminants that are on this unregulated list? And they said, go and do that, have a task force, and start looking at this stuff even if they're not regulated, things that have been on the horizon and do it. And I haven't seen that in any other state. So I think because of this, a real change has happened.
Now, Louise and Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong though. I believe that you can bake in community-based remedies into a class suit, correct?
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. It can come in a particular situation as a result of this going on. So for this community, those things will precipitate out of all the action that's going on.
Right. Yes, sir.
I was going to wait because you had a question? Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is this. My sister and, my sister and I have both been adversely affected, we believe, because of the contaminants, health-wise. My sister doesn't live in New York State now. Can she still participate in the suit?
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay,
Because they would have jurisdiction because she lived here during the time they were in the environment and the exposure.
How are we contacted? Will you pick up that thing in your pocket? And you dial the number?
No, I don't mean now. I mean,
Okay.
I know how to reach you now, but I'm saying, how did you become involved with this particular case?
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
No, sure. So I think like everyone, we found out through the news, right? So it came out through the UCMR 3. The EPA went to all of the water districts in the country and said, this is a list of contaminants that you need to test for every water district in the country. Go back, bring us your results. The results came in, and when they were published, it showed that the city of Newburgh had some of the highest levels in the country. And through that public domain, everyone found out, we found out for the first time, I think the community found out for the first time how bad the contamination was. And through that, we did further investigation. We did FOIA requests, which are public record requests to the state of New York and to the federal government, and we've been off and running since then.
Okay, but now, my question also is that the city of Newburgh gets their water from the Washington Lake, right? But the town of Newburgh gets it from the aqueduct. So, and they said it poisons the ground. Does it also poison the well waters? Because that's what a lot of people are confused about.
Of course.
Did it contaminate the wells?
Yes.
Because a lot of people in the town have wells.
Yes.
And that's the same ground. I mean, it can cross a highway because it's just soil.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to see how that connects the dots.
That's a great question, and
And
Did everybody hear that question?
Can I answer that for you, for her? Okay, and I'm going to turn my camera off 'cause I'm going to be... Yes.
That's it. I mean, in other words,
That's
it
it.
doesn't. This is an exposure question, not about where my water came
Right.
from question.
Exactly.
And so if you start confusing people and getting bogged down into, well, my well is 70 feet deep versus 20 versus 150, well, then maybe I didn't. It's about exposure and then actually doing the due diligence and the work to figure out how you've been exposed, to what degree, and then in the medical following to see if something presents in the future. Yes, sir.
Something that I don't know if you guys address is that Newburgh is in a large school district. And a lot of the schools are in the city and they get the water from the city reservoir, am I correct?
Yes.
So there are towns that are all around this area that are part of that school district that have been affected by this as well. Their kids go to school and they drink out the water fountains. Okay?
That's why we're really concerned about kids.
That's why we're concerned about kids, but we can't go directly to kids and sign kids up, right? The parents have to do it, and you're making my exact point. These kids have been exposed at their schools, through the drinking water, at the water fountains, etc.
And the parents
Showers.
They go to all these different events
And-
in schools all the time.
And the showers, etc. And so, but it's very hard. Be quite honest, it's difficult to reach. And I appreciate your point about more people should be here. At the end of the day, this is a very difficult issue to grapple with. I applaud the folks that are here because at the end of the day, you're showing up talking about something that is very stressful. And that's one thing that they didn't mention. There's also, we bake those things into remedies as well. I mean, in certain ways, you're dealing with the level of stress of just having to think about having been exposed or family members exposed. No one wants to live like that. No one wants to show up to these types of meetings in the Hampton Inn to talk about potentially being sick. I mean, there's a lot of other places all of us would rather be, right? So I applaud you all for showing up and asking great questions and talking about this. Two seconds, there's other hands of folks who haven't spoken yet, okay? Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question. I've already sent my paperwork in to be, I own a home in the city of Newburgh. So by me suing the city of Newburgh, am I really not, I mean, will they not raise taxes to pay for their lawsuits? How will that affect an actual homeowner?
How does that, historically speaking, can you cite examples of how cities ultimately pay remedies and how it ultimately impacts individual homeowners if a city where they live is named in the lawsuit?
Well, okay, so generally speaking, as Hill had mentioned earlier, cities have insurance, so they should just be using their insurance. There's obviously going to be examples, and I've known some back in Florida, where cities have then tried to pawn it off on actual people that are
Because
affected.
wouldn't their insurance then go up? So they have to.
That's not your
recoup the
problem.
full- Well,
Yeah.
but it kind of would be.
It's not
If
gonna
they
go up
raise
to
the
the
problem.
point where it's gonna be this kind of thing. And also, one thing to keep in mind too, is medical monitoring is generally set up to be something that the city puts money into, but over a long period of time. So it's not this big chunk of money. And if people don't utilize it, they get the money back.
Correct.
So it's not like, even though usually medical monitoring would be for a large sum, it's not something that they're gonna have to take this hit on so drastically.
The analogy I use for this, and hopefully this will make sense to you, is the city is responsible for a safe road, right? If a huge pothole sinkhole's there,
Have you been on the road?
I haven't been on the road in a but if you're driving down the road, and you have your nice new car, and that pothole pops your tire, it's gonna cost you money, right? But it would, a lot of money. If you get kidney cancer, it's gonna cost you a lot in terms of who you are, your livelihood, your life. That's a high cost. Now, if the city has to continuously fill potholes to try to prevent the catastrophic damage, that's also gonna cost you money because you're a tax-paying citizen, but it's gonna cost you significantly less to fill the pothole, make sure the city's run efficiently. So what do I mean by that?
Prevention is better than the cure.
First of all, you've been paying taxes already for that insurance policy.
Right.
Okay, so in other words, you've already paid in to what they've paid the insurance company already. So when the insurance company pays the claim, let's say, I'm just gonna throw out a number, $50 million. I don't know what Newburgh's insurance limit is, but let's say it gets maxed out. I don't even know what the deductible is. Deductible, $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. Pay the deductible, they pay a $50 million claim, that goes to the plaintiffs. At the end of the day, if the city then says, you know what, we have all of these harms and hits, the insurance is gonna raise our insurance, which probably in this case wouldn't happen for this particular harm because they would have already paid out, class is closed, statute of limitations is done. So the insurance company knows they're not gonna get hit with another $50 million lawsuit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But even so, the tax base raise is not going to be because of this lawsuit. It may be because your taxes have been going up, or you have a different legislature, or somebody you voted into office. But they control taxes more than what happens in a lawsuit remedy. There's no direct causality. You can vote into office whoever you want to vote in.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. I understand.
There's no direct causality.
Can I also answer that for you? Because what they did, even before this whole thing got started, was I went to Albany and we had to fight for funding, to get for the testing to be conducted in the first place. So there's money in the state budget, there's money in the legislature, they'll get together and they'll find a budget, to pay for this, so that the city doesn't have to go
Right,
bankrupt.
there's always, the state is looked at as a source of funds. But remember now, this really isn't about the town of Newburgh. This is about the manufacturers, okay? Their portion of it is very small.
Yeah.
This is the responsibility of the manufacturers.
Right.
And they have what feels like unlimited funds, believe me.
Yes.
Pay for water? Because in Flint, they still make them pay for the water, even though it's contaminated.
Yes,
That
they
is my question.
What is the question?
In Flint, they're still making them pay for contaminated water.
Yes, they are paying
For
for
where
the
they
water.
live at, else
Yes.
it goes in their credit and whatever else.
Yes.
I know I've been paying attention a little bit, but I just want to make sure, how does that supposed to affect us here? It's the same thing, because if the water's contaminated.
You're not gonna stop, you're gonna be paying, if you're paying for your water now, you're gonna pay for your water
Still gotta pay,
then.
even
Yeah,
if
that's
it's
not gonna stop.
contaminated or not.
That is not gonna stop, no. Yes. So will you just stand up and turn around and address folks?
Hi, everyone. Beatrice Harris, City of Newburgh. 29 years old, and
Speak up a little.
I'm sorry, I'm 29 years old, and me and my husband are political, community, and environmental activists. In 2013, I had my first stroke.
Oh, no.
I was 24. But prior to that, I moved to Newburgh in 2006. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with PCOS and PMDD. If a lot of you don't know that, it's polycystic ovary syndrome and premenstrual dysphoric disorder. As the years went by, I had to make some unfortunate decisions. I was successful in giving birth to my son. At the time, I didn't know the water was contaminated, and he got sick, and sorry, me and my husband paid the price because of the city we live in, because of the city's reputation, if you will. We were treated like criminals. So in June 2013, which was 2 months after I had my first stroke, we lost our rights to our son.
What?
And for the last 5 years, I've had 5 more major strokes. I gained weight no matter what I tried to do. In 2016, of all the confusion that I was going through with the doctors, my husband, I was about to drink a cup of tea. I remember this as clear as day. My husband snatched the cup from me. And I asked, what's going on? He said, honey, they've called a state of emergency. The water is contaminated. But it didn't surprise me or my husband, because after my first stroke in 2013, my husband said something's wrong with the water, because I had a clean bill of health until I moved here. So it's 2018, and I suffered another terrible heartbreak. It was back in February, and I turned up pregnant with twins. And it's a rarity in not only my side of the family, it was also a rarity in his side of the family. And we were happy until I had to go to the hospital. And I had an ultrasound and there was no heartbeat. I had to let them go. And what angers me most is I looked at all of the records for the city of Newburgh and, with all due respect, the state of New York, and the reason why we had a contamination to begin with is because they classified Silver Stream as a level D, which meant that anybody could dump anything they wanted. So I have had to pay so many heavy prices. I am still disabled. I suffer from lupus.
You have preeclampsia too.
I have preeclampsia with my son. And 2 months before he was born, I told my husband, we were both crying in the shower, if there was one person you save our child. That's it. There's no discussion with that. So I'm telling all of you, if you've ever lost or had a passion taken away, I used to dance when I was a kid. I had so many dreams ahead of me. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a teacher. And because of this sheer outright irresponsibility with the city of Newburgh, and more so over still the state of New York, because the DOH had came to the city of Newburgh for the last 5 years, it did not make it public to anyone. I had to change my entire perspective on my life. So in closing, I'm not just here For myself, I'm not just here for my husband, I'm here for Newburgh. I'm one of the only few people that still go to the city council meetings and talk about it, so it's never forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure there are many, many stories, still many questions. I don't want, I'm very cognizant of people's time, and I respect folks' time. I'm respectful of the fact that you all have come here. I can't implore you enough to sign up, even if you think there's zero wrong, even if you think that you're fine and perfect and your family's perfect and everybody's, still sign up. And if you have questions, I'm going to cut off the public part of the question just because I don't want to hold people in the room. I want to be respectful of their time. We're still going to be here, so come and ask individual questions that you still may have. Here's what I want you to do, though. We're going to give you extra packets that are in the back. Folks who didn't come today, try to explain to them what this is to the best of your ability. Try to break through some of the confusion. Hand these to people, and then if they're confused, have them call the firm, ask for Patrick or Louise. Don't have them ask for me. I'm kidding. But talk to these guys, have them break through some of the confusion, better information. If you have any questions, come up and ask us now. But please, as you go, take 5, 10 packets with you to give out to folks, particularly families with young children, because those are the hardest for us to reach. Okay?
I'd like to tell everybody something in the room real quick. It's very important. In section 5 of this agreement that you're all about to sign, you are on the hook to pay some money to these guys if, I know they just told you you're not going to pay them, but according to their own documentation, it says, in the event that the client advises the law firm to discontinue the handling of this claim, or if the client fails to cooperate with the law firm in the handling of this claim, the client agrees to compensate the law firm a reasonable amount for its services and for the time spent on this claim on an hourly basis or under such other arrangement that may be agreed upon by the parties. Did you guys please explain that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure, that's process and all legal, yeah, what it basically means is that for some reason, if you go to another firm, then we put a lien on the litigation for our reasonable attorney fees and our costs. That's
So
that
what
means.
it's saying is that if you end up getting a remedy, you started with us, but then you say, you know what, I want to stay in the lawsuit, because if you fire us, we can't stop you from continuing your litigation. Right? You can still file your own case. You can go to another attorney. Maybe your cousin graduates law school next year, and he says, I want to represent you, whatever. You're still in the case. We could put a lien on a percentage basis of that to get the cost back. Right? In other words, you're not getting a bill if you just fire us and drop out and you never receive a remedy. This is strictly commission-based. But that would be commission, right? It'd be based off a commission if you received it in the future. Is that making sense? I'm trying to understand.
No, it does.
It's not that
Yeah, you're getting paid
you
for
fire
services.
us and we say, well, you went to this medical, you did this, you owe us a bill. No, it's if you get a check and we've done all this work, and part of the reason why you got a check is because of the work we did.
They initiated it.
Initiated the work. You'd have to pay a percentage of that, and usually that's negotiated with your new lawyer. Right? So your new lawyer would say,